Faile Bashere is one of the most dynamic and layered characters in the Wheel of Time, fierce, proud, passionate, and often misunderstood. While many fans first met her as a love interest for Perrin Aybara, Faile is far more than a romantic subplot. She is a noblewoman with a warrior's soul, a political force shaped by a powerful Saldaean legacy, and a woman constantly at war with her own identity, expectations, and the man she chooses to stand beside. Her journey from noble daughter to battlefield commander and key player in the resistance against the shadow is one of growth, sacrifice, and grit. This is the complete story of Faile Bashere, her origins, her motivations, her culture, and why she matters to the fate of the Westlands. Saldaean heritage. Faile is the daughter of Zarine Bashere, the Marshal General of Saldaea, and one of the greatest military minds in the borderlands. This instantly places her in the political and martial elite of her homeland, a position of immense privilege, but also one with immense expectations. Saldaean culture is deeply rooted in resilience, discipline, and strength. Situated along the Blight, its people are raised to be warriors in both mind and body. Women in Saldaea are known to be just as fierce as men, often serving as scouts, warriors, and advisors. Faile was raised in a world where cunning and combat walk hand in hand. This explains her boldness, her hot temper, and her refusal to be treated as anything less than an equal in any partnership. But growing up in the shadow of greatness, under a father known for his military genius and political loyalty, shaped Faile in more complicated ways. She was not only taught to survive, but to lead. The choice to leave home. Born Zarine Bashere, she rejected her given name and chose Faile, which means falcon in the old tongue, when she decided to forge her own path, away from the political and military web of Saldaea. The choice of name isn't just cosmetic. It represents her desire for freedom, independence, and flight from expectations. She initially travels as a hunter of the Horn of Valor, a quest that draws thrill-seekers, patriots, and power-hungry adventurers from across the continent. But Faile doesn't seek the horn for glory. She seeks it to prove herself, to define herself by her own merit, not her father's reputation. This phase of her life reflects a classic theme in the Wheel of Time, forging identity in a world bound by lineage and prophecy. Faile doesn't want to be someone's daughter or someone's wife. She wants to be her own name, her own power. But the wheel has other plans. Faile and her relationships. Beyond her connection with Perrin, Faile's web of relationships is wide and deeply impactful. Her interactions with other characters reveal just how multidimensional she truly is. Her relationship with Berelain Serpendrag, the ruler of Mynene, is famously antagonistic. Their rivalry, rooted in both political tension and personal jealousy, brings out some of Faile's more impulsive traits. Yet it also exposes the pressure she feels to assert her identity and protect her marriage in a male-dominated world. Over time, their conflict matures into grudging respect, showing Faile's capacity to evolve and even reconcile. With Perrin's companions like Gaul, Bane, and Chiad, and later Morghese, in disguise, Faile earns respect not by title, but through action. She commands loyalty because she is decisive, perceptive, and never afraid to get her hands dirty. These relationships show that Faile is a natural leader, not because she demands obedience, but because she inspires it. Meeting Perrin Aybara. When Faile first meets Perrin Aybara, the quiet blacksmith-turned-hero from the Two Rivers, it seems like an unlikely match. Where he is soft-spoken, she is fiery. Where he hesitates, she strikes. But this contrast is exactly what draws them together. Faile challenges Perrin in ways no one else dares to. She sees his power and potential long before he does, but she refuses to let him coast on fate alone. She pushes him to lead, to speak, to act. Their early relationship is full of conflict, often laced with cultural misunderstandings and clashing temperaments, but it's also a love built on mutual respect, forged in hardship and held together by choice. In Perrin, Faile finds someone worthy of walking beside her, not behind or ahead. In Faile, Perrin finds a partner who sees the man behind the legend. Captured, resilient, and reborn. One of the most defining moments in Faile's arc is her capture by the Shadow Aiel, a group of savage, honorless outcasts from IL society. During this arc, one of the darkest and most harrowing in the series, Faile is not just a victim. She becomes a survivor, a strategist, and ultimately, a leader of a covert resistance within enemy lines. Stripped of her name, dignity, and freedom, Faile uses every ounce of cunning and inner strength to survive. She forms alliances, manipulates captors, and maintains hope, sometimes as the only light in the dark. It's in this crucible that Faile truly earns her name as a falcon, fierce, watchful, and free in spirit even when caged. Her time in captivity changes her. It deepens her strength and compassion, but also hardens her sense of purpose. She emerges more determined than ever to fight, not just for Perrin, but for the future of the world. Faile the warrior, Faile the politician. Later in the series, Faile becomes a critical player in Saldaean diplomacy and military strategy. Her knowledge of the borderlands and nobility allows her to serve as both an asset and a bridge between Perrin's rebellion and the larger political landscape. She handles delicate alliances, makes hard calls, and isn't afraid to wield power when needed. Importantly, Faile is never portrayed as just a fighter or just a noble. Her strength lies in her ability to balance both roles, using strategy, emotion, and instinct in equal measure. She is as comfortable on the battlefield as she is in court, often acting as Perrin's strongest advisor and political equal. Themes in Faile's story. Faile Bashere's arc in the Wheel of Time is rich with personal transformation, emotional intensity, and thematic depth. Her journey is not just about physical survival or political influence. It's a layered exploration of how pride, love, and culture shape a woman determined to forge her own destiny. Across the span of the series, Faile's experiences bring out three dominant themes that define her growth and impact on the story. Pride and vulnerability. Faile is a woman of immense pride, born into nobility and raised in a land that values strength and cunning. She carries herself with a fierce confidence that can sometimes border on arrogance. But this pride isn't hollow. It is deeply rooted in her upbringing, her Saldaean heritage, and her desire to prove that she is more than just her name or lineage. However, underneath this formidable exterior lies a core vulnerability, an emotional depth that reveals itself in moments of intimacy, loss, and quiet reflection. Faile feels things intensely: love, fear, anger, grief. Her arc becomes one of balance, learning when to stand firm and when to soften, when to assert control and when to let others in. It is this tension between her heart and pride, and her tender humanity, that makes her one of the series' most compelling figures. Through adversity, Faile comes to understand that vulnerability does not weaken her. It gives her strength in ways no sword ever could. Partnership and power. Faile's relationship with Perrin Aybara is one of the most nuanced and evolving partnerships in A Wheel of Time. Far from being a conventional love story, their bond is forged in conflict, deepened through shared hardship, and tempered by raw honesty. From the beginning, Faile refuses to be a passive romantic interest. She asserts her place beside Perrin, not behind him. She challenges his indecisiveness, questions his self-worth, and pushes him to rise to the occasion, sometimes to the point of friction. Yet what emerges is a relationship where both partners grow through one another. They fight, misunderstand, and hurt each other, but they also learn, forgive, and protect. Their love is not soft or easy. It is a hard-earned partnership built on mutual respect and the willingness to be shaped by one another. In choosing to love Perrin, Faile never sacrifices her independence. Instead, their bond becomes a model for power shared equally, where love is not a retreat from selfhood, but a deepening of it. Cultural complexity. One of the most distinct aspects of Faile's character is how deeply her cultural identity shapes her worldview and choices. As a Saldaean noblewoman, she brings into the story a rich tradition of honor, boldness, and warrior strength, particularly among women. In Saldaea, women are raised to ride, fight, and lead, and this legacy pulses through everything Faile says and does. Her fiery temper, her refusal to be spoken down to, and her expectations for those around her are not mere personality quirks. They are reflections of a culture that sees strength and authority as natural qualities in a woman. Faile does not need to be taught how to fight or lead. She already knows. What she must learn, instead, is how to navigate the world beyond Saldaean, where not everyone shares her values or assumptions. Her cultural lens often puts her at odds with others, especially Perrin, whose more reserved Two Rivers upbringing contrasts sharply with her fire. Yet it's precisely this contrast that enriches the narrative. Through Faile, readers and viewers are given a deeper look into the diversity of the Westlands and the different ways strength, loyalty, and leadership are defined. Her cultural identity is not a backdrop. It is the very fabric of her character, informing her decisions, her strategies, and even her flaws. Why Faile Matters? Faile Bashere is one of the Wheel of Time's most underestimated characters, often dismissed for her sharp tongue or jealousy in early arcs. But those surface traits hide a deeper truth. She is one of the most courageous, competent, and fully realized women in the series. She fights not only for survival, but for identity, love, and legacy. Her journey, from Saldaean nobility to a prisoner of war to a commander and queen-in-waiting, mirrors the arcs of other great heroes. But Faile does it on her own terms, in her own voice, and with her own fire. She is not just Perrin's love interest. She is a falcon, and she flies by her own wings. Faile's legacy in the Westlands. Though it's never fully realized in the series, Faile's position as the daughter of Zarine Bashere places her as next in line for the throne of Saldaean. That alone carries immense implications. As the world plunges into chaos with the last battle approaching, leadership in the borderlands is more important than ever. While her personal narrative becomes deeply entwined with the people of the Two Rivers, Faile never abandons her Saldaean identity. She embodies the potential unification between the old noble houses of the borderlands and the emerging rural powers represented by Perrin. Faile in the show. In Amazon's The Wheel of Time adaptation, Faile has been given a slightly different path, introduced more gradually, with new layers of vulnerability, loyalty, and humor. Her relationship with Perrin is evolving differently, shaped more by mutual survival than by cultural misunderstandings. This version of Faile is still Saldaean in spirit, fiery, proud, and unwavering, but also shown as deeply empathetic and protective. She stands beside Perrin not only because she loves him, but because she believes in him. In Season 3, we've already seen her taking initiative, planning, fighting, and refusing to let anyone write her out of the story. As the series continues, we can expect her to play a larger role, especially as the battles grow bloodier, the politics deadlier, and Perrin's destiny more burdensome. Show Faile is not here to be saved. She is here to change the game. Beyond the love story, Faile Bashere is not written to win every reader's or viewer's heart, the way some of the more traditional heroes in the Wheel of Time are. She is unapologetically sharp-tongued, emotionally intense, and often confrontational in ways that can be both endearing and infuriating. She is fiercely independent, never content to be defined by someone else's journey, and often unwilling to compromise on her beliefs, even when doing so would be easier. But in a world dominated by destined figures, tavern-touched by prophecy, Aes Sedai wielding world-shifting power, and ancient forces reincarnated, Faile stands apart as something far more rare and profoundly relatable. An unchosen hero who rises through sheer will, grit, and unwavering loyalty. Faile is not a wielder of the One Power. She is not the Dragon Reborn, nor does she carry the weight of prophecy or ancient lineage meant to determine the fate of nations, and yet she is constantly found in the eye of the storm, fighting battles, both literal and emotional, navigating political turmoil, and standing by those who are chosen not as a passive observer, but as a critical force in shaping their paths. Her heroism is not granted. It is earned, moment by moment, in the quiet spaces between wars, in the harsh decisions made in captivity, and in the fierce, loyal love she refuses to let go of even when it nearly breaks her. What makes Faile so compelling is that her strength is entirely her own. Her courage doesn't come from magical shields or prophetic certainty. It comes from showing up, again and again, even when the world tells her she doesn't belong on the battlefield or in the war council. She bears no divine mark, yet she commands loyalty. She has no magical defense, yet she walks straight into danger. She doesn't need to be the most powerful figure in the room, because she is often the one with the most resolve. Faile's stubbornness, often viewed as a flaw, is in truth her defining weapon. It is the armor she wears against the crushing weight of expectation and fear. It is the trait that drives her to survive when she is captured, to resist manipulation, to lead others, and to stake her claim, not in the shadow of others' greatness, but beside it. She does not seek to steal the light. She demands to stand in it as an equal. Her love for Perrin, while central to her story, is not her entire story. Rather, it is a vehicle through which her deepest qualities are revealed: her loyalty, her protectiveness, her pride, and her vulnerability. She is not defined by the man she loves, but she chooses him repeatedly, and, in doing so, defines herself. In their partnership, we see that love, when built on challenge and respect, can be a source of power rather than submission. In the end, Faile embodies a different kind of heroism, one not written in destiny, but carved in effort, sacrifice, and resilience. She stands for those who fight not because they must, but because they choose to. She reminds us that heroism is not about perfection, prophecy, or magical power. It is about the refusal to break, the insistence on being heard, and the courage to hold your ground, even when the world tries to push you aside. Faile doesn't need to be universally loved. She is not here to please everyone. She is here to fight, to lead, and to prove that the strength of a falcon is not in its charm, but in its wings. Final words. Faile Bashere is a force of nature within the wheel of time, bold, brilliant, and utterly unafraid to claim her place in the pattern. From noble daughter to fierce warrior, from political player to partner in revolution, her arc is one of constant motion, constant tension, and constant courage. She may not channel one power, but Faile commands a different kind of strength, the power of conviction, of grit, of loyalty that does not bend, even under the weight of war and loss. As the pattern tightens and the final battles loom, there's no doubt that Faile Bashere will continue to rise, always fighting, always flying, always free.